Welcome to the Personal Brand Era podcast. I'm your host, Ella Ray, and I'm excited to talk to Katya McEwen today. She's a certified intuitive mindset coach and spiritual guide. And the first question that I ask my guests most of the time is, how did you get into coaching?
That's such a great question. And first of all, thank you so much for letting me be here. I'm excited. I'm super excited. Thank you for inviting me. The way I got into coaching, I always been passionate about training and developing people. My history, I have a long history in the banking industry, in also telecommunication industry. I worked as a leadership coach in the largest authorized retailer here in the United States. I also worked as a manager, as a leader in the largest bank in Canada. And I've always been passionate about training and developing people. But most importantly, what I found, because I've been in sales all my life, I noticed that there is a huge difference of people who are successful and who are not. And the difference was not in what they were taught to do or scripting or anything like that. And a lot of sales organization use scripting. The difference was how they were thinking and the difference in thinking. So initially when I started online, I actually started as a sales coach because back then, it was about 8 years ago. And back then I had someone who told me, well, you cannot teach in personal development because you don't have any experience. Now I know it's a BS, right? But back then I did not know better. So I did start it with sales coaching because that's my background and I'm very good at it. Did I really enjoy it? Not necessarily, because I knew the difference that mindset does, right? So helps people and makes them so much more successful. And this is why I pivoted into mindset coaching. I got certified in mindset coaching and I switched into mindset coaching as well. And while I was growing and evolving, there's a lot of other tools and modalities that I use right now, including Reiki and intuitive oracle cards reading and a lot of other things, right? So I don't know about you, Ella, but I find that I'm very multi-passionate and I love to incorporate a lot of little things into my coaching that help my clients to blossom and to really evolve in the ways that align to them.
Well, I'm just the same like you, it seems. Being interested in so many different things. You are interested in art, and we can see in the background your oracle cards, right? And let's dive into that area first, a little bit deeper, because you talk a lot about oracle cards. And I personally don't know much about it, just the general things that people may know. And how would you actually explain that, what oracle cards are and what they do for a 5-year-old?
Great question. I love that. So for the 5-year-old, what I would say the oracle cards are just like playing cards and they have pictures on them. So people draw the card and it's a beautiful picture. Sometimes they have some wording. Sometimes you might have a book with that, just the same like you have books, but it could be in combination. And people will draw the card and they will look at the card and they will really start using their imagination of what does that means to them. So for example, if you draw the card with a bear, with a polar bear in the winter, on an iceberg, you can just start using your imagination. What does it mean to you? Here is a really little cute bear in the winter. What does it mean to you? And the oracle cards are nothing but a reflective tool and divination tool. So there is a little bit of fear around oracle cards in regards to, especially using as a divination tool. And fear comes from many different angles. One angle, it could be religious angle, right? So because it's doctrine and it's considered to be seen to use cards or divination, right? So that's one angle. Another angle comes actually from the user because they fear that they don't have that intuition to actually understand what that card means. And that's why a lot of times you have oracle cards accompanied with the ebook where people can draws a card, if they don't feel that they have this connection yet to divine, to intuition, they can read interpretation. When you read interpretation, I always recommend to everyone, take what feels really aligned for you and don't worry about anything else that doesn't stand out, right? So that's how I would explain it to 5-year-olds and then expand it a little bit more to the adulthood as well.
You also mentioned angel cards, tarot cards. How do they differ? What's the difference between those three?
Yeah, really a great question here. I want to kind of cover a little bit more about cards, right? So because while I'm obsessed with helping soulful entrepreneurs and creatives to design, print, and sell cards. On the other hand, I want to really kind of expand the vision of cards. Cards don't even need to be only tarot or angel or oracle cards. There is so many other different cards as well. So there are affirmation cards, and those are most common, right? So, and actually it's very interesting that even in religion, nobody's opposed to using affirmation cards, right? So, and if you look at that from the perspective that oracle cards are nothing that a self-reflective tool and helps you to get centered. So a lot of times people can also get centered with oracle cards as well, and just sometimes we are so busy throughout the day, we can just draw the card and like kind of, okay, what does it mean for me? And go move on. But again, going back, sorry, I didn't digress. Going back to your question, Ella, the difference between tarot, angel, and oracle cards is that tarot goes back about to 15th century. It came from actually playing game, and after that it was developed into divination tool. Tarot actually has very specific, major arcana and minor arcana, and it's very structured. So every card has a meaning, every card has different things. I'm not really an expert in tarot. I dip my toe a little bit in it. I play with it. I do it very differently, but I definitely don't delve and learn the tarot. Like you will need to study tarot to really understand meaning of every card, and it's very, very structural, right? So used for divination and used for, some people think that it's used for prediction, and that's one of the other misconception. People think that when you are getting the reading, you will that whoever is reading the cards for you, they will tell you your future. They will actually predict your future. And it's further from the truth, so much far from the truth, because even so, there is some psychics who can give you some predictions. It's totally possible. You have your own will. And what you're going to do is what's going to predict your future, actually, okay? So, and again, I divinated a little bit from, digressed a little bit from answering your question. So tarot, again, very structured, right? Goes back 15th century. Then we go to oracle cards. Oracle cards is more flexible. It doesn't have to be exact number of cards like in tarot. It doesn't have major arcana. It doesn't have like structure in them. Oracle cards could be so many different themes, so many different ways you can use them, anywhere between 40 and up to, some people even do 25 cards and up to any number of cards that you want. And they are simply, as I said, there's so many themes. Like in my membership, for example, members have so many different themes I can't even explain what they could be, right? So I'll give some examples. It could be 4 elements, for example, or oracle cards could be themed on shaman's journey, or oracle cards could be based on your chakras. So many different areas for oracle cards that you can use. And then angel cards, it's kind of subsection of the oracle cards, because angel cards are oracle cards. It's a theme of oracle cards, but it's a specific cards that will get you connected to different angels, and it really depends on different oracle cards, angel cards too, because different ones will connect you with the different angels, right? So that's what it's designed for. But there is more. Like I said, there's affirmation cards, and I'll give the example, right? So Louise Hay, that's what I had on my desk. probably won't see it here. Here, okay. So this is affirmation cards, right? So, or one of the cards that not too many people are talking about, and it's a really incredible tool for therapists, it's called metaphoric cards. And metaphoric cards, what is the difference between them and regular oracle cards? It doesn't have book, it doesn't have words. It's normally have over 100 cards only with pictures. And therapists use a specific way to use these cards to help to identify different challenges in people's lives, right? So I'm not going to go into how and all of that stuff, but there are so many ways you can do that. On top of that, there is, like, to me, cards, so let's just call them cards for a second here. They are extension of your business. So if you're using them in your business, you can use them as extension of your business. So for example, if you have a course, you can turn course into cards. So why would one want to do that? Well, because a few reasons. You can set it up so that they always have access to your cards on a phone. And I don't know about you, Ella, but I don't leave my phone at home intentionally. I might forget it sometimes, but I don't leave it at home intentionally. And your people, your students who are taking your course always will have your course on a go as a reminder. Then they will have a physical product in front of them. And there is something about touching those cards and using them as a cue cards to remember what's in your course. So what's happening, they actually retaining material better. They connect into your material on a deeper level, and therefore they will get better results. And this is what you want. So they will become the billboards for your course because they will be getting the results. The better results your people get, the more word of mouth you will get, right? So, and you have a lot of social proof as well. So that's my long-winded answer about the Tarot, Oracle, and Angel cards.
Well, thank you so much for clarifying. Like literally, while you were talking, my mind was racing in all different directions, how you could use those cards, not only artistically, not only for playing with your own intuition, but also for very specifically your business. The last idea I find so intriguing, especially when you go more into a premium program, if you will, right? It's not a solely digital product that you're selling, but you want to create kind of a premium experience for your clients. Like, I want to totally do that, right? I don't have any physical material for my clients just yet. Everything is online. But as an artist myself, I'm so intrigued by this idea that you can help your clients actually with a physical product to, as you said, retain all the information and have better results and faster results, and not be glued to the phone all the time, but actually have something very tangible, right, that they can play around with and use however they learn best, right? This is really intriguing. And how did you get into Oracle cards in the first place? When did it start, this passion?
Did it start? So such a great question. Actually, I'm from Ukraine, and I didn't mention that. And back home, when I was a child, I started getting into astrology. I started getting into cards, and I don't remember exact age, but I started doing card reading with a play card. It was a playing cards. It was a regular playing card deck, and I was doing the readings. And nobody in my family understood it, and they were kind of, you know how it is, like, it's weird, right? So it's like, whatever, let her play, like she's like, what they say in my language, if they don't cry, let them play, right? So whatever they're doing, right? So, and when I was 19, I was at the student camp, and we were like, and my friend always, she knew we always would do readings for her, my best friend. And then I was doing readings right on the beach. We were lying down, like a group of us of 10. And I was doing readings, and I just turned it up the card. And then I said, oh no. And I just shuffled it right in front. And he said, what was there? And I did a prediction that scared the heck out of me. And it actually came true. So the prediction was that, and it was this guy, the young guy. And I said, well, it can't be. And it's like, what I was reading there is that he's going to get hurt somehow tonight. That was a prediction. And then I said, forget it. It's like, whatever. It's silly. Let's just drop it. And actually, he was stabbed at night. the same night. And that scared me so much that I did not touch cards for probably over 30 years after that.
Wow.
So because I wasn't ready and I did not know what to do with my gift. And then slowly, when I moved to US, when I moved to Canada first and then US, so first in Canada, I started kind of reacquainting myself with cards and specifically with Oracle cards. And I got like one of my first Oracle card decks, and then I was just playing with them just for myself. I wasn't doing readings then, I was just doing just for myself. I use them for divination. I also use them, as I said, for centering, for mindfulness, for like, you know, really being in moment and present with what's in front of me, right? So stress relief, really great way to stress relief, fun. So that's how I restarted using them, right? So, and that's what helped me to really rekindle my connection to source, rekindle to my really rekindles that connection, and understand that it's a powerful way to help people, and it doesn't have to be scary when you know how to use it. But in that span of 20 or 30 years, I grew and evolved so much. I had teachers who taught me a lot of things, and not only about intuition, but other things as well. That, as I said, energy and so on and so forth. So yeah, so that's how I got into that. And lately, in the last year, I've been dreaming about my own deck for about 5 years. I hired artists, I hired designers, and not to their fault whatsoever, I could not explain my vision properly. And you as an artist probably know, if you ever do commission work, and I do commission work now, and it's like sometimes they telling you one thing, but you are not hearing it, or what they explaining, it doesn't translate. I don't know how to explain it, but as an artist or designers, people understand it. So it's how you communicate with that. And even after hiring artists, and I like spent over $400, had 6 cards, still have those ones. They were beautiful, but I couldn't explain what else I wanted to finish that deck. And for many years, I was like, okay, I give up, because doing it in Canva was just not, like, it just wasn't the design I wanted. My designs are ethereal or like boho style, depending like on what I work with the decks. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to hire this designer again. I was quoted $10,000 just for design, to design 54 cards for me. And I was like, wow, who can really afford $10,000 ticket, especially if they're at the beginning of their business? Maybe they have a course and establish or whatever it is that they want to do. It's a really huge, like, I'm not saying it's not worth it, but it depends on your stage of the business. So I started to explore things, and over a year ago, I got into AI, and that is like a whole different story of itself of how I got into that. And just to make a long story short, I finally found the way how I could design cards in under 2 hours, literally. And now, not only that, at that time, I found the way how to do 55 cards under 2 hours. I did the workshop and showed people how to do that. I also have a free guide where I teach people how to do that. And that started something in me. I'm like, I have to let people know. And this is how I become totally obsessed with that. Now, not only I teach that, I teach how you can create 200 images under 1 hour, and don't need to be only for Oracle cards, could be for social media too. But that's like kind of evolution of my history with Oracle cards, coming from really learning, accepting my gift, understanding that it's a gift, and then moving to Oracle cards, experimenting, learning how to connect and, to the source, really learning how to channel things, and then moving now to teaching people how to design and print and sell their own Oracle cards.
Now, you mentioned 2 things that I would love to go more into. You mentioned that you are from the Ukraine, and you mentioned that you also recently got into art. Now, let's talk about this for a moment. You tell or you oftentimes say turning pain into art. And I would love to know and share with the audience what that means for you specifically.
Thank you so much, Ella, for asking that. When I turned 50, I started painting, and I started first with a pour painting. Then, interestingly enough, because everything goes to my gift, right? So I started offering readings through painting, and it's a completely different, topic, but I do that as well. I do divination through the painting. For the people, they ask the question, I do the reading, and they get not only reading, they get full report, but they also get their painting. So I started when I turned 50. It was something I never painted in my life. I still cannot really draw very well. I can do it on Procreate, but not like with a pencil and a brush. So I started when I was 50. Like I even sold a lot of my work as well. And I just love the whole different techniques with pour painting. I now moved into more of abstract painting as well. So experiment with all of those things. And then February 24th, 2022 happened. And for all the listeners, you know what happened. It's the war in Ukraine, unfortunately, which is still going on 18 months after that. And it's a very raw topic. And it still is, because my brother lives in Ukraine. He lives in very dangerous zones that you hear on TV all the time. When you hear about Zaporizhia, that's where my brother lives. And my older nephew is actually fighting on the front lines. So the first few weeks of the war, what I can explain it, I was literally went totally nuts and crazy from worry, but there was more to that. It wasn't just worry. I actually was born in Russia. I have relatives in Russia, in Siberia. And I had a huge identity crisis. Because I was born in Russia, I grew up in Ukraine. When I was 7 years old, I moved to Ukraine. Ukraine is my home. But I had this huge identity crisis on top of the worry, on top of everything else, on top of trying to see how I can help my friends and family there back home. And that turned, like what I self-diagnosed, I got into huge PTSD as well. To the point where my husband would tell me, you need to put your phone down. And I would break into hysterics and say, what if it's the last time I'm talking to my brother? So it was really, and right now, even talking about that, I feel it obviously, but looking from 18 months ago, where I am right now, I can actually talk about it without breaking into tears and hysterics and all of that stuff. Even so, it is still painful. And at that time, I was expressing it through painting, right? So at that time, at the beginning of the war, and one of the first paintings, and do you mind if I share?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So one of the first painting was this one, and I don't know. Actually, let me stop sharing my videos, so that will be. I didn't think about that, but that's all good. So you'll have other paintings of mine in the background. So this is a painting. It's a colors. It's not exact colors of Ukrainian flag, but it's blue and yellow. It's turquoise and yellow right now, but the Ukrainian flag is actually blue and yellow. And as you can see, the reds, that was representing of that blood, right? So blood and what was people suffering, but also I wanted to have some gold sparkles in there, and it's very abstract, right? So it's very emotional, very abstract, and that was representing of what I was feeling and what people of Ukraine were feeling at that time. And when I look at this painting and I'm thinking, but how can I express, when I was even looking at that, there is a lot of expression in it. But I was like, I wanted to do something where I can show human emotions, and especially women emotions. And I have a lot of friends there. I was helping two of my girlfriends escape from Ukraine at the beginning, like actually in March, about 4 or 5 weeks in. And we and my friends online helped me to raise money to help them to go to Poland and all of that stuff. So, but I wanted more. I wanted to that again. It's that, how can I take what's in my head and put it on a paper when I don't have the skills of the artist to actually draw that? right? So, or paints that. And this is at that time, I started experimenting with AI, artificial intelligence, image generation. And that's where it's totally changed for me, like so much. So when you're talking about turning pain into the art, I was able to turn all of my emotions actually into something absolutely beautiful. Some of it is beautiful, some of it is just telling of all of the emotions translating in the images. And I created one, and at that time I decided that I enrolled in a program I'm still in, forever grateful for my teacher, because she taught me how to use AI properly and ethically. And I had this thing because I needed first I needed it for distraction. That was like, I needed distraction. And second, I was like, okay, so now I want to have a project. And I decided that I'm going to do 55 images specifically for Ukraine. I'm going to sell them and fundraise money. And I went on that journey, creating those images. Started with created images of very specific goddess of Ukraine. She's a modern goddess of Ukraine, Bereginya, and she's a goddess of protection. So there was a lot of thought about it. And I wanted to create this many different faces of Bereginya. And I started with that image that I still have, and it's dear to my heart, and absolutely loved it. And that's how it started, my whole journey into AI. And it's actually became a healing journey. Not only that I was able to get distracted first, but as I was creating those images and other images, I noticed something inside of me was changing, because no longer was that pain all sitting inside. It was transmuting to something absolutely beautiful. And it was transmuting to something where I was able to actually help people of Ukraine as well. And I still do that. I still do fundraisers with my art, and still send it directly to my contact on the ground. It does not go through any organizations. So there is a lot of amazing organizations. However, I have a direct contact who gets the money, and then from there, they just bring it to where it needs to be.
So this is the painting that Katya was referring to. And when I was researching and looking for questions that I could ask you in the interview, I was really moved by your whole story, because I was born in Kazakhstan, and I have a very, very similar story, if you will, when it comes to the Ukrainian war. Just the same things that were going through my mind. Being born in a Russian territory, so to speak, identifying as a, I would not say Russian, but you are so influenced by that culture when you grow up there, right? And then when I was 7 years old, I moved to Germany, right? And when the Ukrainian war started, and we have relatives also living in Ukraine still, distant relatives, it was such a difficult time for me as well to digest everything and to kind of get over the hate that I saw online towards Russian people. And I remember my dad even telling me, Ella, please never say that you are from Kazakhstan, right? As long as the war goes on, please don't say anything, right? So he was so concerned, and he was also so afraid that anything could happen to me if I tell where I'm really from. And I'm so moved that you actually took all your grief and anger and whatever emotions come up, actually. And it's also quite difficult for me to talk about it without getting really emotional about it. You actually took all these emotions and you transformed it into something that is a symbol. And I even envisioned that this picture, this very particular picture that you created, the first one of the goddess, could go into history books if, of course, you can market it in a certain way. You are a sales coach after all, right? I see it as a huge symbol of the things that were going on in the history. And you actually created a different version of the goddess, right? Would you like to walk us through that? Because this is the second version that you did after practicing more,
if you don't mind, let's go to the first one for a second, and then we'll go and I'll show you the significance, and there is in two different ways. Like this one, when I was creating it, this is how I felt, and this is how people of Ukraine, and like you explaining to me right now, and how you felt as well. So many people felt this way, and the way it was that I can't breathe, and it was people, like at the beginning of the war, it was like a little light, and it felt like they would get for this grasp of air out of the, deep dive, and they would be covered with this huge wave again. And that's exactly what I was portraying here. So that's how they were feeling at the beginning. There's how many of them are still feeling like that. The difference is they used to be under sirens, which is a horrible thing to say, but it's truth. And then the next picture, if you move to that, Ella, is I used the exact same prompt, but with the evolving with AI technology, it created a very different image, but still striking, but with many more details. So I used the exact same prompt. I didn't change anything. The only thing was changed is a version of that program and software that I use, and it created even on a deeper level here. So that's, to me, and it wasn't only to me, very healing. It's very healing to a lot of my members in my community as well. And while I focus on designing, printing and selling, or publishing and selling cards, there is a whole journey of turning pain and transmuting it into something beautiful. Some of them transmuted into the cards, some of them transmuted into something else, but it's a whole thing of staying in a creative flow, staying in a connection with the universe and source, really staying and turning inside, but don't being stuck in there, letting it all out. And this is one of the ways you can let your emotions out, and art could be so healing. And I would argue with anyone, because there are so many people, there are so much negativity around AI. AI is art. You're directing it. And AI is a tool. And just like a knife, you can use it for harm, or you can use it for preparing beautiful, nutritious meal. So I am using AI to really help people to not only connect with their creativity, but heal as well.
And I really, really love that, how you are using it, and the types of tools that you actually learned, right? Because it is a learning curve to also learn all of this. And you just mentioned that your main service that you are providing right now is design, print, and sell any types of cards, but mainly oracle cards. So can you tell us more about how the card creation process looks like, and how you actually help clients do that?
Absolutely, yes, I'm obsessed about that. So how much time do we have? I'm just joking. I'll try to keep it short. So yes, since Oracle cards and AI both being transformational for me, right? So that's why I'm marrying both of them. And in my process, you don't need to use AI if you don't want to. It just speed up the process. So there is several things. So I'll talk about each step. So before we even start to design, even so I lump it all into designing step, you need to really think about bigger picture. What does your customer journey looks like? Because we're talking about here, you're creating the product, and it could be digital or it could be physical, but you still want to connect to that. How is your customers interacting you? What are those touch points? And at what touch points they're going to interact with your cards? That could be the first point, right? So of the physical product, or that could be extension of your course or your book, right? So it could be many different ways, but you really need to understand that customer journey, at what points they are interacting with your cards, right? So if that is a cards. Then after you have this understanding, you get some clarity, you need to start thinking, okay, so now I know where they will interact with that. How can I create the deck that is going to be transformational for my clients? We're all talking about what is the transformation going to be? When they interact with your card, how is it going to feel? That is the key things that I teach, because we don't, and it's funny, a lot of people join my membership because they love art I create and they want to create something similar or better, even better. It's great. And they want, like, okay, where do I start? Do I start creating? No, we need to start at the beginning, at the foundation, right? And it's normal. So we start with that understanding first. Then we start, okay, when we have this good understanding where it fits in journey and how is it going to transform the lives, then we start to brainstorm themes and concepts. And the concept is, which I already talked about, it could be tarot decks. They can design tarot deck if they want. It could be oracle deck, and then oracle, it could be section angel cards. It could be affirmation cards. So a lot of my clients starting with affirmation cards because it's simpler and faster, right? So it's one design on the front, one on the back, or if it's digital, it's only one side, right? So, and they start with those affirmation cards. And so that would be the concept and the theme. Now, if it's affirmation cards, it's simple. You create 25 to 35, 45, how many you want your affirmations, you have your design, and I teach you how to put it on the cards, either digital or physical, right? So then we'll talk about how to print them and sell. If it's oracle cards, it's a little bit more complex because it depends what you want to create. We do use some tools. I do teach people, if they don't feel comfortable to channel the the meaning and everything else and themes, you can use some AI tools like ChatGPT. But again, it's a tools that you directing, not asking for giving you all the information. That's the biggest thing, because then there is, and that's definitely a topic for different discussion, but there is a copyright discussion, which is very interesting on both images and on what created courses. There are so many now creating courses with ChatGPT. If you ever want to copyright it, you won't be able to. So let's just put it, depending on how you use it. So that's it. So I help my members to really tune in and why they doing it, who is this for, who is their ideal client, how their clients want to feel, and then tuning in what they doing, either channeling or they're going to do through help of other tools as well. So I give different tools for different people, because like, in the membership, I have them on a very different stages, right? So I meet them where they are. So after that, when they design the cards, I teach them how to do layout in Canva. I actually provide with a simple templates that they can use the template, my templates with specific size for specific company, printing company. Then we move to and actually before we even start designing, we decide on what printing company we're going to use and what size, because it's much better to design in the right size than resize it, because it can lose resolution and all of that stuff. So we get into technical stuff after. Bleeding resolution, what company to print, how to upload to the printer, what printers, what company, and I recommend all of that, obviously, in my membership as well. And then the last part is the sell, right? So the sell part is actually, we're focusing a lot in September in my membership, and here where I use my own sales experience, right? So, and definitely use my own experience of building an audience and how to do it a fun way. I provide my members with a shuffle templates, for example, where, you've seen those templates where it says, take a screenshot, post what it was, like affirmation card shuffle or oracle card shuffle, so they can use those, make their own. Also, just an example, tonight I have an amazing copywriter who is coming as a guest expert and who is going to teach us how to write a sales page specifically for Oracle Cards deck. So I invite experts to my membership because I believe in collaboration. And I love inviting women specifically because I'm very passionate. And even so, my membership is not only for women. I have one man, right? So, and right now, And I'm very passionate about empowering women. So I love collaborating with women, bring the expert in, and really allowing them to help my members to move on. What I am very careful about is for my membership not to become a pitch fest, so to speak. And it's important to me when guests coming in, they providing value. Oh, of course, I will share their links and everything at the end, but it's not a sales presentation. It's a presentation for them. How can you help? Like today, Cheryl Oliveris, who's copywriter, incredible copywriter, she's coming in, as I said, to teach us how to do the sales page. And there is other components. So again, it's the 3 phases that I'm going through: design, print, and sell. And then we just focus on those things.
Sounds like a relatively easy and simple strategy and steps that you take people through. And I would like actually to play a bit at this point, because you are so passionate about the Oracle cards and everything that is connected to it, the artistic part, but also what it does on a mental level, right? As a mindful mindset coach, right? So if you feel like doing this as well, maybe we could do an example reading, or how you would actually do that, how people can actually use those cards with me as a guinea pig, if you want.
Absolutely, I would love to. And I'm actually going to, I think you asked me that question before, how's my readings different? So instead of me explaining it, let me demonstrate it.
Yes.
How about that? Okay, so I'm going to let you choose. I have 2 decks that I prepared. This is mine. It's not available to public. It's called Nature's Whispers. And this deck I got yesterday. It's a brand new deck, but I opened it yesterday and I did live readings yesterday. And I do live readings, free live readings on Facebook once a week. I don't have specific time. So it just, whenever I feel inspired that I'm connected, I go on. And this one is the Tree of Life Oracle. And I found really cool connection with that brand new deck. So I'm still connecting with it. And that's one of the things. So how do you connect with the deck? We play with that. And that playfulness and that joyful moment, we need so much more in our life. We're sometimes so serious about so many things. Yes, especially business owners. We're committed to our business, but how can you introduce that play and joy into your life and creativity? So you just play with the deck. You can do it many different ways. You can just open it and like you connect with it. So like this one, for example, I would go in and there is always like, it's all about customer experience. We're talking about the customer experience. So here it says, no trees are alike. This is yours and yours alone. Grow, stand tall among the stars. And it's like, wow, you open the card and your energy drops, your stress level drops immediately, right? So you can look at the book. I don't normally read the book immediately. And a lot of times I don't read the book at all, but you can. And sometimes I do. And then you would go through the cards. And if you want, you can go through the cards and you can kind of look through the different images and you can like, wow, this is really like, I was like, that was me reading, actually opening it right on air. And I'm like, oh my God, I love the images, right? So, but that's connecting you to a completely different world, right? So, and each image will be reflecting something inside of you. So that's how I connect with the deck. The reason my deck is not available for sale on public yet is because I'm still connecting to it. And I'm still experiencing a lot of things and how I want to change some of my explanation for the book and so on and so forth. And I am planning to do big Kickstarter campaigns. That's always also the reason. And part of it is because I want to teach my people and I want to see if it works to teach my people to do it. And I don't teach anything I don't do myself. So in my, because I don't only have membership, in my higher program, which I have 6 months program, my members of that program will witness every step that I'm doing, from research of Kickstarter, how am I organizing it, what videos I'm doing, and all of that stuff, literally every step, right? So that's probably coming in November. So now, explaining how I connect with the cards, I will ask you, Ella, which deck would you like? Would you like David's Wells, The Tree of Life? Or would you like my deck? So you just pick.
I feel connected to your deck.
Okay, awesome, fantastic. And here is an example, right? So when you do the readings, if you are kind of curious how to do the readings as well, for anyone who is listening, that's exactly what you can ask your people. Which deck do you feel connected to right now? And they don't even need to know and see it, maybe just the back of the cards, right? So, or just like I showed the box first, right? And the picture on the box, and they already will have some connection there. So right there, you helping them to stay present and being mindful of what they're going to ask next. And next, what I do, I'm going to say, Ella, I want you to think about a question. And ideally, I don't want you to have to use a yes or no question. And yes, you can. I can't stop you from doing that. You can certainly ask yes or no question. But the reason I recommend not to is because when we limit ourselves into yes or no answer, we are limiting the universe to giving you something better. So that's the reason why I ask whenever you want a reading, just think about the questions that could help you. And the questions examples could be, what is my next step in example? Just think about something. Or when it comes to my business or life or love life, whatever it could be that you're thinking about, what is that I'm not seeing and need to know? Or the question could be simple, what do I need to know in this moment? So those are the questions that you're going to ask yourself. So now what I'm going to do, you're going to think about the question and you're going to let me know when you're ready, and I'm going to start shuffling the deck. And I'm going to shuffle it higher because normally you don't see it, okay? But you can see, and when you're ready, you just let me know that you're ready.
So I have a question that is actually burning in my mind for a while now, and it is concerning my business. I am at the crossroads, you could say. I have built my business up to a certain level, but right now I need to make a very hard decision. And I would love to know in what direction I need to think, specifically to stay aligned with myself, to not burn out with any of those options, because my health and the well-being of me and my family is number one. So which direction would actually serve me on that level?
Awesome, fantastic. And I love that you're sharing this question. And by the way, for when you're doing the readings, sometimes people don't need to share, but I love that, right? So, and you can just say, yes, I have a question. And I'm just demonstrating how it can be done, right? So we're doing it a little bit longer because I'm actually doing the demo. So the next thing I'm going to do, and I'm just chuckling now, you'll know why. So remember you said your question was, which direction do I want to take, right? So in your business, so you stay aligned to your values, to what's important to you. And the next thing, I'm not even going to do the reading yet. I'm going to show you the cards. So that is something different that I do. And I'm going to ask you, and you don't need to answer it out loud, but just for yourself. So you know your question and you see this card, what's coming up for you?
So what I feel coming from that picture is that it looks like a cheetah, but at the same time like a leopard. Mm-hmm. So if it's a cheetah based on the facial painting, a cheetah is a very fast animal. Actually, an animal that I admire a lot. Like cats, big cats are one of my favorites. So it is a very fast and durable animal. Like they can excel at the highest levels, excel other animals when it comes to speed, at least, right? But they can only excel for a very short time. Well, this is actually really funny because that's exactly me. I can excel in a very short time extremely well. But after that, I need a long period of time to rest and to digest everything until I'm ready again to like be the absolute best. Like excellence and mastery is like my thing. And it looks like, based on the picture, this animal is in a quiet state. It's not running or it's not hunting right now. It's in a very calm and peaceful state. So even though it's a very excelling animal, the picture tells me that it has found a way to rest and to be in this restful, peaceful state, at the same time being a high delivering animal, right? A high achieving, high performing animal.
Yep. Okay. And congratulations, you truly connected. And that is what my clients experience every time I do the readings. Because you just done your own reading. And this is how you do readings of the card, okay? So that's what's different than what I do, right? So, and I will reveal and I'll tell you what's in my book and I'll tell you what's coming up for me as well, okay? So the card is now, you can read it.
I think it's intuition. Oh, I love that. Okay.
Okay, so your answer, the question was, what is the next steps that I need to take? You already kind of understand how you work the best and following your intuition and really building your business around how you work the best and really acting on those inspired, intuitive hits. When you get inspiration, don't let it sit, act on it. Because when you act on it, you move fast. But also creating incredible boundaries on how you run in the business. What is that you're doing in the business, okay? And stepping in, and it's very interesting because, yeah, cheetah and leopards are very fast. But also what we as a business owners often forget is tuning into our feminine receiving side and opening ourselves to receive. And that's what intuition and connecting to intuition is going to help you with. So when you look at the leopard and cheetah, and in mine it was leopard, but you're absolutely right. It looks like a little bit of cheetah here. So the big cat, right? The fast cat. So when you get this card, they are symbol of insight and really heightened awareness as well. So what allows them to be successful is not only speed, but being totally present and being aware of what's in front of them. But it's also, if you think about, there is a lot of graceful movements, there is a lot of keen sentence, right? So, and it really guiding you to trust your intuitive powers. Really trust and embrace your feminine wisdom, that receiving of being, because our culture is so much about this do and doing, right? So, but we are human beings, we're not human doings. So through the presence of this card, right? So we're also reminded of that intuition is your gift. And that card just reminds you how powerful your intuition is. You just read the card without a book or anything knowing what was written, what I wrote and channeled into this card. So you yourself just demonstrated the powerful insight, and really intuition can illuminate your path of self-discovery and spiritual growth. And what else is telling me this card is, you are a highly intuitive, highly spiritual person, and how are you incorporating it into your everyday life? It doesn't have to be in a business, but in everyday life. How are you using your intuition to really dig deep and connect on a deeper level as well?
Okay? This is really powerful, actually.
Yeah.
Because I struggled for a long time with intuition, and this is as you said, a very, very strong reminder for me to not go up into my head, which the intuition does not live in the head, in the mind. And before making big decisions like I am about to do, I need to be present in my body. And
your heart.
Thank you.
Your heart as well.
Yeah.
Your heart. Yeah. And my full book, like when it's available, it has few parts to the cards reading. So that's just a general. Then I have affirmation, in which I'm going to read for you, and I'll send it to you so you can have it. It says, I embrace the fairy power of my intuition allowing it to guide me with unwavering certainty. I trust in the wisdom that flows through me and honor the depths of my feminine inside as I attune to the intuitive currents. I walk my path with confidence and grace, knowing that I'm guided by sacred flame within me. Okay, so that's the intuition part as well. And in the book, and I won't go through that as well, so I also have connection to the elemental connection, right? So leopard is the earth, right? So it's that earth, even so we're connecting intuitively, right? Source, and when you're talking about connecting to yourself, but it's all this grounding energy as well. Yeah, that's exactly how I do the readings. So the difference with what I do, I allow my clients to connect to them and really see that spark aha moment, breakthrough of, oh my God, I'm so powerful. No matter what their connection is, they have this little spark in them that brings them to the completely different level.
Since we are talking about making big decisions, I'm pretty sure that at least one person that is listening to this podcast is at the same point or level that I am at right now, in front of a really big decision. And I think those cards can help get into your intuition and creative mind to be aware of what is actually going on inside yourself to actually make the best decision for your business, for your personal life, and so on. And I also heard you talk about something that I would really love to share with the audience. You name it the 4 hours of silence. And I think this is a very powerful tool for people to use when they are especially about to make a big decision in their life. So let's talk about that and give them something into their hands to manage that.
Yeah. 4 hours of silence. I done it only once, full 4 hours. And I always very transparent, right? So I was part of the program. It's called TCP, Transformational Coaching Program. I believe that's the name, in 2019. And Jim Fortin, who is Master of Subconscious, and he introduced in the program of 4 hours of silence. And I do meditation, I do hypnosis, and I've done it even before his program. But that was something that I resisted so badly. And I was like, okay, if I'm resisting that I probably want to do that. And I did. And the insights that came through this 4 hours of silence being remarkable, absolutely remarkable. So first of all, what is 4 hours of silence? You don't have journal, you don't meditate. That's what's very challenging for me. So I couldn't write, I couldn't meditate. So you try to stay awake. And you literally, because in meditative state, you are in meditative state, it's like, different, sets. So you almost like a sleeping, but not, right? So, and you stay awake and you listening to all this noise that's happening in your head. And those thoughts are so powerful, but also so funny. Because during the 4 hours of what I done it inside on purpose, so I don't have any distractions. I set my alarm and I put my phone in another room where I can hear it, but I can't grab it, right? So I kind of remove all of those obstacles to prepare myself first. Then I prepared myself mentally before it, because 4 hours, and of course, clear your schedule, make sure nobody interrupting you. And during this 4 hours, the first hour was torture to me. And because it was constant, my noise in my head was, why are we sitting here? You have so much to do. You need to do business. You need to do that. And you need to do that. And you need to do that. And it's stupid. And it's blah, 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 and blah, blah. And it's all of that. But what was really profound is how much noise we actually have and and how much power we have as well. So as you start redirecting and getting curious in, at least for me, the experience was like, okay, this is very interesting. Thank you for bringing it to my attention, thoughts that I have other things to do, but I'm intentionally right now here with 4 hours of silence. And slowly it was moving on into some, so your mind start to trick you, right? So, okay, I can't really make her move and stop it by saying that she needs to do something. What else can I do? Let's throw at her millions of ideas of what she can bring in her business or life or whatever, millions of ideas for her art or whatever it could be. And that was like bombardment. And when that happens, normally I like to write them down or put it in my file, right? So of ideas or anything like that. But I can't because I am in this very intentional space. And then what you would notice, it gets quieter and quieter, and you will find the answers you were looking for, so many things that were hiding there. And the biggest thing was for me is, again, not to grab a pen and paper and write them. And I was just saying, okay, subconscious, just remember what I need to remember, right? So, and I trust that whatever that will come out of this 4 hours will be absolutely profound and life-changing. And it was, because out of that, there was born so many things and that I gave life to, including many different programs. I've done coaching programs different ways since then. I incorporated a lot of my modalities in my coaching too, and I did not before. So there was a lot of things that change for me. And interesting, we talked about the 4 hours. Just yesterday during my live readings, I actually mentioned 4 hours, right? So I don't know if you watched the video or not. And I just said yesterday, I feel it's time for me to do 4 hours again. Since then, since 2019, I've done my longer silences for an hour. I think the longest was 90 minutes or 2 hours. I can't remember, but I haven't done 4 hours since. So it's a great, great way to get connected with you, with yourself. I'm also want to do 10 days of silent retreats. That's something that's been on my, living list. I don't call it bucket list. And that is something I would love to do. So one day I definitely would love to do that in a more organized way, where you're going in the retreat center and you can do it. And I think it's called Vipassana, and you can just do it for 10 days. Silence, complete silence. Yeah. So,
I think this,
very great. Yeah.
This can turn out very profound for one or the other person, especially when someone is really stressed out, or there are a lot of thoughts going on and they just are undecided, or they are procrastinating a lot, or they feel unworthy of whatever a thing they maybe plan to do, or just like me deciding, do I go direction A or direction B? Am I worthy of direction B? You know, all those questions come up all at once, right? And I think silence is a very, very powerful tool to use just for anybody. And the time frame is so important, right? If you just say, "Oh, I'll be quiet for 10 minutes. I can handle that. That will do all the good things for me," all right? It won't, right? Because with time, you actually find the ability to detach, just like you described, from your own storm that's going on in your mind, and actually attach back to who you truly are. And I think only from that place where you are deeply connected with your heart, with your body, with your core spirit, with your mind, of course, as well. We can leave that out, even though it's hammering us sometimes. But I think only from that place you can make the best decision possible for your life and for your business. And for one person, it will be 1 hour will already be transformative, and for another person that will not be enough, right? Because there is maybe a lot of underlying trauma and what have you, right? And also with the social media addiction, if that is very prevalent for a person, like that person might need to take a longer time out, if you will, right? And be in total silence and with yourself. And what I notice actually is that people are very scared to be alone and with themselves. Hence the social media addiction, that they are constantly needed some kind of connection, whether it is a true connection or not, doesn't really matter. They are craving that kind of likes and comments and conversations and all that stuff. And they actually and truly struggle being with themselves and actually seeing themselves, recognizing maybe they are reminded of mistakes they might have done in life, right? And all of a sudden they need to think about that, right? And in those 4 hours of silence, that will appear, right? They will have that kind of confrontation, and that type of confrontation is so uncomfortable in the beginning, right? When, just like with anybody who's trying fasting, right? It's kind of a similar concept where you have to fall victim to the things that your body does on a natural level, right? Having hunger, tremendous hunger when you're starting fasting, right? After 1 hour, you feel like I'm gonna die. But once you actually go to the 4 hours, 5 hours, like, ooh, you feel like you're lifted, you feel like an angel, right? No weight whatsoever, mental, emotional, or physical weight that can draw you down or put you down, right? So I feel that people, many people, especially in the Western world, that's my observation, after living for such a long time in Germany and now across Europe and been to the USA also, that's my observation. This stillness is so crucially important, and it needs to be a practice that even parents teach their children to be still and be with themselves, even though it's a very, very natural state for children to move around and to explore and do all that stuff, you know. But that type of skill, I feel, brings true life skills also to someone, right?
Yeah,
Especially
and also boredom.
Yeah.
We a lot of like, well, I'm bored. Be bored, like, you know. And that's what I tell, like, especially for people who try to express themselves creatively. Boredom is incredible with that, because it's where your creative ideas are going to be born as well. And we are like kind of expanding what you were talking about. People afraid to face themselves. 100%. I was at the stage of some of my stages of my life where I would say I would not want to even explore certain things and my past traumas and everything else, because, quote to quote, I told my coach, I'm afraid that if I go there, I won't come back. And this is how many people feel, because you, as a society, you keep yourself busy because you're trying to hide. Like, you need to ask yourself the question, are you keeping yourself busy because you are, what are you resisting? Right. So, and I'll give you an example, very simple example. Yesterday, I was recording welcome videos for a few of my programs so I can set them up correctly on the funnels and everything else. And I had to record 3 videos. They are 5 minutes or 10 minutes each video. They're not very long. I was planning to do it first thing in the morning. I did not do it until 4 o'clock. I found the other things to do. And it's not like I love video, but it's that resistance. You are busy because you're trying to avoid something. Or if you ever needed to confront somebody, and when I say confront, maybe had a challenging conversation, and you've been postponing it and postponing it and postponing it, and then you're in this agony, and then finally when you had it and you're relieved. Well, you don't need to be in agony, just, let it go, right? But it's human nature for us to overthink, to really keep ourselves busy, like you said, addiction to social media, addiction to other things, right? So even like tools that I teach for creating, it's extremely addictive. And I do teach how to approach it, because a lot of times people would just be stuck in creation, which is awesome. It's a playtime. So I always teach them, okay, schedule in your calendar playtime and schedule in your calendar intentional time of working on your project. If your playtime, go crazy, go nuts. And you have this hour, just play, create as whatever you want, be as creative, experiment and styles and all of that stuff. But when it's intentional project of you, let's say creating oracle cards, you actually going to be intentionally. So otherwise, your mind will trick you into resisting, because your mind has absolutely no desire for you to be successful. The only function of your mind is to protect you. And anything that, especially whatever you're doing in your business, anything that you're doing is outside of your comfort zone. And if it's outside of your comfort zone, your mind is literally doing this. we are going to die. Stop her. What are we going to do now? Okay, there is a laundry there. There is a dinner she needs to make. She needs to go make and do the grocery, or she needs to let her dog out and walk the dog and all of that stuff and all of the stuff. What else? What other distractions we're going to send her? Because again, your mind has absolutely no desire. It's not how it's been created. Yeah. So.
And I feel like you mentioned for artists or for people who get so addicted to this artistic phase, if you will, or artistic time, I feel that applies particularly to artists or artistic people, right? Not only those who just want to play around with Midjourney and create stunning pictures, but they are not artists, right? At the core of their being, they might probably have a easier time actually selling something than artists, because artists are so much in depth under the water and they are drowning, right, in the most positive way to that creation process. Like we thrive in that process, right? And this is what I see with a lot of fellow artists as well. They barely sell anything because that business mindset is just like on the other side of the ocean, on the other side of the Atlantic, and they need to build a bridge, right, to actually get there. And this is a hell of a job. So I think since you have like both worlds in your programs, like you are creative and you've explored that realm, but at the same time, you understand marketing and sales. So you are the perfect person for someone who sometimes may be lost in that creation process, but you can actually guide them. Listen, you need to go here in this direction. You need to actually sell something. Like it's time, you know? So if someone really decides to work with you and they are really inspired by this conversation that we had today, where will they actually find you?
Yeah. The best thing to do is to find me on Facebook, because that's where I'm mostly active, on my personal profile. And you can even send me a message, no issue there. Now, Facebook could be funny. It might not show me a message. It might not allow me to respond to it. You know, it has mind on its own. So that's one way. And if you're really interested in an Oracle cards creation, that I have actually a free guide. It's a guide, an ebook, and a book. Like a workbook, so where I literally walk you step by step. I even given you a prompt formula for what you can prompt, how to design the prompt if you're using Midjourney. That's what I use and recommend. And literally give you step by step creating theme. I have the questions I ask you, the ones that I shared with you, you know, how to connect with your clients, how you want them to feel. I don't cover customer journey because it's in depth. I can't put everything in one book, but it's enough for you to start designing, creating, and really do that. So yeah, and I know that Hella is going to link it in, so you can just sign in. You'll have to put your email in. I walk you through the whole process, but also give a lot of value in my emails as well. Just an example today, because we talked about it. Even so, I normally keep my trainings, like when experts coming in, close to my community. I like today's training, I actually opened up to my whole list. So if you want to join, people can just come in and join and learn how to write a sales page for Oracle cards. So you can join live. Recording is not available for you, only for my members. It's staying in my membership world, but you can absolutely come and join for free if you're interested. It's tonight as well.
And what time will that be?
That would be 8 o'clock Central Time. So for you, probably will be middle of the night, right? So you are in Germany right now?
Yeah. No, I'm on the Canary Islands right now.
Canary. Okay. Yeah. So
that will be in the middle of the night. Yeah.
That will be in the middle of the night for you. Yes. So yes. So yeah. So that's the best way to connect with me. As I said, I do free readings. That's another thing. If you want to do the reading, just watch. And again, I don't have set time. It's literally, I've been thinking about it a lot. Should I set time? And it just doesn't work. I can't, like, sometimes, like, I want to do the reading where I'm in a space of reading, right? So when I'm in a space, when I'm grounded, when I'm not in the middle of some technical stuff I'm working on inside my business, I want to be in a space where I'm connected, I'm grounded, so I can do the best readings as well.
Of course, I will link all the links in the show notes. so everybody can find you where you are actually. And I wish everyone a lot of fun going into your world, because they will explore so much and they will create so much. I'm really excited for everyone who is going to do that. Thank you so much, Katya, for being on my show and for sharing your story, for sharing your journey and your insights. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure. Thank you.